The most beautiful love story between a millionaire and a poor cleaner. The early morning sun filtered through the windows of the grand building, casting a soft golden light across the pristine marble floors. Clara had already been at work for hours. She wiped down the windows with precision, her hands moving tirelessly as the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted from the break room. She wasn't used to quiet moments. She lived in a small, cramped apartment on the outskirts of the city, a far cry from the luxurious offices she cleaned, but Clara didn't mind. She had always found solace in the simplicity of her life, cleaning, earning enough to survive, and finding beauty in the little things. But everything changed the day he walked into her life. Ethan Blackwell was the kind of man whose name you only heard in whispers. A millionaire by the age of 32, he had built a tech empire from scratch, and now, at the peak of his success, he seemed untouchable. Tall, charismatic, and impeccably groomed, he was a man who could have anything and anyone. Yet, despite all his wealth, Ethan felt strangely isolated. His days were filled with meetings, with investors and clients, with people who were always asking for something. His nights were long and lonely, spent in his penthouse apartment that felt more like a prison than a home. Clara had seen him in the building before, always too busy to notice the cleaners. He was a shadow that passed by her every day, distant, unreachable, a symbol of everything she could never have. But on that particular morning, when Ethan walked past her while she polished the windows, something shifted. She had just finished the last swipe of the glass when she felt a presence behind her. "Excuse me," a voice called out. Clara froze, her heart suddenly pounding in her chest. She turned around slowly, and there he was, standing right in front of her, Ethan Blackwell. "I just wanted to say thank you," he continued, his voice smooth but sincere. "The office always looks perfect when you're around." Clara blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. It was the first time he had spoken to her, and it caught her off guard. It's nothing, sir," she stammered, feeling her cheeks flush. "Just doing my job." Ethan gave her a small smile. "Still, it makes a difference. I'm Ethan, by the way." "Clara," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She tried not to make eye contact, afraid that she might embarrass herself further. For the next few weeks, their paths crossed more often. Ethan would smile at her in passing, a word or two exchanged here and there. And then, one rainy afternoon, he stopped her in the hallway. "Clara," he said, his voice softer than usual, "do you ever have time for coffee?" It was a simple invitation, but for Clara, it felt like a momentous event. She hesitated for only a second, but before she could stop herself, she found herself nodding. The small cafe down the street was quiet, a sharp contrast to the world they both came from. Clara felt nervous, out of place in a world that wasn't hers. She wore her faded jacket and her hair was tied up in a messy bun, while Ethan looked as perfect as always in a well-fitted suit. As they sat across from each other, Ethan broke the silence. "You know, I never thought I'd be sitting here with someone like you," he said, his eyes watching her carefully. Clara shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. "Someone like me? Someone who doesn't care about money, who doesn't care about status. You're different from everyone I know." Clara felt a strange mix of emotions stir within her. She had always known that people saw her as nothing more than the cleaner, someone invisible in the grand scheme of things. But Ethan's words, honest and unguarded, made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe there was more to her than she realized. "Don't know what you mean," she said quietly, taking a sip of her coffee. Ethan leaned forward, his gaze intense. "I mean that you don't need anything from me. Most people only want something. They want to be in my world because of what I can give them. But you seem like you could take it or leave it." Clara looked down at her cup, her fingers tracing the rim. She had always felt out of place in his world, one of fast cars, penthouses, and endless luxury. But Ethan seemed to see something in her that others didn't. As they continued to meet for coffee over the next few weeks, their bond grew stronger. They spoke about their lives. Ethan shared his struggles with the pressure of being at the top, with the loneliness that came with success, and Clara spoke of her humble beginnings, her mother's dreams for her, and the quiet joy she found in small, simple moments. She told him about the rough neighborhood she lived in, about her father who had abandoned them, and how she had learned to take care of herself. Ethan, in turn, confessed his fear of never finding someone who truly understood him, someone who saw him for who he really was, not for his wealth, not for his status. But even as they grew closer, their differences seemed to loom larger. Ethan's world was one of glamour, where people's worth was often measured in wealth and influence. Clara's world was one of struggle, where survival meant working hard and never asking for help. The divide between them felt like a wall that neither could overcome, no matter how much they cared for each other. One evening, as they walked along the beach, the tension between them was palpable. Ethan stopped, turning to face Clara. "I don't want to pretend that we can just ignore the difference between our lives," he said, his voice heavy. "I'm a millionaire, you're a cleaner. I live in a penthouse, you live in a cramped apartment. Can we really make this work?" Clara swallowed hard, fighting back tears. She had asked herself the same question 1,000 times. Could they really make this work? Could love bridge the gap between their worlds? "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know if we can." Beth had reached out, gently lifting her chin so their eyes met. "Then let's stop pretending we don't want this. I want you, Clara. Not because of what you have or don't have, but because of who you are. I spent my whole life trying to fill the emptiness, with money, with things, but none of it matters without you." Clara's heart raced. She had always been afraid that someone like Ethan would never truly see her for who she was, just a poor girl trying to get by. But in that moment, standing there on the beach, she knew that Ethan wasn't looking at her through the lens of money. He saw her as a person, as someone worth loving. They kissed then, a kiss that sealed everything they had been trying to say but never quite had the words for. It was a kiss full of longing, full of promise, and full of hope. The world around them didn't change. Ethan was still a millionaire. Clara was still a cleaner. But in that moment, they realized that love was more powerful than money, more important than status, and more enduring than any obstacle life could throw at them. From that day forward, they didn't allow the world to define them. They built a life together, one that wasn't perfect, but was theirs. Ethan didn't try to change Clara's world, and Clara didn't try to change Ethan's. Instead, they created their own world, one where love was the greatest treasure they could share. And so, in a world that often felt divided by wealth and class, their love story became a testament to the power of connection, of two souls who had nothing in common but everything to give.